Hi folks, welcome to your cheese and wine tasting kit from Smash Grapes. We're not going to tell you which cheese goes with which wine because the reality is all cheese makes wine taste great. That combination of fat and salt really bring out all the flavours. Coming up, we've got our 6 drink-along videos that give you a little bit more information on all the wines in the kit. Enjoy. This is the Montrachet Rosé from the Pays d'Oc in France. Now, what's Vieille-Vienne? What's that?
Vieille-Vienne, absolutely. Old vine is what that means. I'll come to that in a second. But yeah, we're in the Pays d'Oc in France, and we've got ourselves a rosé. Pays d'Oc is like a big region, if you like. It's actually a collective of regions with a more wider name. So it's not given a specific regionality for various laws and regulations that are frankly quite boring. But this comes actually down from the south, sort of Languedoc-Roussillon part of the Pays d'Oc in the south of France. And it's a classic sort of pink blend for that part of the world that we might be more familiar with from Provence.
Yeah, and I think as soon as I poured this out and in the glass, I think this is what a lot of people would go, "Ooh, love a blush." It is what people would call blushy. Blushy doesn't mean anything though, does it?
No, blush doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really mean anything in terms of the colour. It doesn't mean anything in terms of the grapes. But yeah, we love a pale pink at the moment. We love that Provence style. What does that mean? Well, Provence is a specific region. It's like right round Saint-Tropez and that posh area on the Riviera where all the celebrities have their villas and some of them their vineyards. It's always a blend, Provence, of generally 3 grape varieties: Grenache, Cinsault, and Syrah, or Shiraz as we know it. It's pretty much always those 3. There's a couple of other bits that tend to go in there as well, like Rollet, which is also known as Vermentino, but generally it's those 3. They are great as a pale pink rosé. They make fantastic rosé, there's lots of great flavour, but you don't have to buy it from Provence, and heaven forbid, please don't buy it from Provence with a celebrity's name on the side.
Or anything relating to an angel. That's
that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
This is really common in all parts of the south of France, and it's great in all parts of the south of France. You do not need to go to those sort of big curvy bottles with pop stars' names written on the side or angels written on the side to get this type of flavour. We have got loads, haven't we, of pale pink rosé fans who have converted to this, and it's great value for money, and they absolutely love it.
Sent an order out this week for 48 bottles of this stuff.
Lovely, lovely. So Vieille-Vienne,
yes.
Old vines.
Old vine.
Old vines, what does that mean? Well, it's pretty common, actually, to be written on the side of some French wines and also some Spanish wines. Old vines, well, vines generally can go from sort of 10, 15, 20 years to start making grapes, all the way up to 60, 80, and 100 years old. And those guys tend to be called the old ones. There's no strict rule about what you can call old, but they are generally the old ones. They grow less grapes as they get older, so there's less fruit on the vine, yes, less yield for the producer, but the flavour is far more concentrated.
Yeah, I mean, like, bold choice throwing in a rosé into this, our, you might be watching this as part of our cheese and wine kit. A lot of people think rosé is just, it's there for the masses. It's there for, like, real winemaking goes into making rosés, right?
Yeah, it's not a secondary thing by any force. It's not like oh shit, we've got some grapes left over, maybe we'll make some rosé. These guys are passionate about making good rosé, and they're passionate about the winemaking that goes around it. Rosé is a fantastic alternative, to picking a specific red or white if you want a great all-rounder, if you've got spicy food, if you've got like a variety of food on the table and you're just not sure what to go with. Rosé is the grape for that.
Sandwich Van's just turned up playing the A-Team theme tune, so you might hear that in the background. But no, that's not just the music we have to spur us on. Yeah, I mean, look, rosé is a great all-rounder, and say this one, super pale, really refreshing. Clearly, bit of sunshine, some friends round. This is a great wine for that. But what else? What else is rosé? An absolute champion with?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Get it super chilled in the sun. As soon as that sun does come out, we're going to enjoy it. But for me, yeah, spicy Asian food. If you're doing a stir fry tonight, that sort of thing, really, really good. I like it with nibbles, with cheeses. If you're having one of those nights where you're not quite sure what to have for dinner, so you grab a bit of ham and a bit of cheese and a bit of whatever's knocking about. Really, really good for that sort of thing.
I mean, love it. I'm converted. Rosé every day.
Cheers.
This is the Umbrella Sauvignon Blanc from Villa Timosuli in Romania.
Yes, another white wine, or another wine from Creme Ricas in Romania, our absolute favourites. Founded by Englishmen Philip Cox and a few other English families. His wife Elvira from Romania got together in 1988, founded this winery in Romania, and now are a massive international operation. I mean, they export to everyone, everywhere. Massive deal, big guys.
I mean, this is without shadow of a doubt our best-selling wine. You know, as a Sauv Blanc, people thinking, you know, Marlborough, you know, New Zealand, even, you know, France. This is a great Sauvignon.
It is great, and these guys do international varieties really, really well. So when I say international varieties, you know, those famous ones, your Sauvignon, your Chardonnay, your Pinot Noir, your Merlot. Why do they do it really well? Well, Romania, funnily enough, as a country, has got a very, very similar climate and landscape to central France. You know, it's fairly landlocked. There's no coastal vineyards here. It's all inland. Similar sort of level from the equator as France. It can replicate all of those conditions. What it has, which say France doesn't, and even New Zealand doesn't, is the complete landlocked nature of it. There are no vineyards near the sea. What does that mean? Well, it means consistency, because being near the sea is where weather is changeable. So you might get a storm come in, weird wet weather, and so these guys can replicate the conditions that our favourite international varieties like Sauvignon Blanc enjoy, but without the risk of things going wrong because of a bit of a weather change. And it's those weather changes that drive up the prices of things like Bordeaux, which can often be Sauvignon Blanc, or New Zealand Sauvignon.
I mean, like, you know, when I'm drinking this, it's got all those characteristics that people who, you know, love a Marlborough Sauv will enjoy. You know, the kind of racy, kind of nice high acid, but there's like a real Moorishness. I want to drink more of it. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, so that's all about balance between acidity and sugar. Now, we might think, hang on a minute, sugar? This isn't a sweet wine, is it? No, not at all. This is bone dry. It's as dry as you get, just like your favourite Sauvignon Blanc. But what this wine does fantastically, and it's what the New Zealanders do really, really well, because they've got plenty of sunshine to ripen up those grapes. When they're ripened, this acidity comes down a touch, but they still maintain it, and the sugar level in that grape goes up. And it's just enough to take the edge off the acidity, so that it's not like you're dipping soda and lime all night, and just add a little bit of sugar, and it's the sugar that is the Moorish nature. It's not making the wine sweet, it's making you want to come back for more and more.
Yeah, definitely, very, very Moorish. Would you know, keep sipping this.
Keep sipping.
I mean, it's a great wine with something like a cheese. It's in our new cheese kit this year. But what else? You know, what would you be reaching for this bottle for?
Yep. So Sauvignon Blanc is great with milder cheeses. Cheese is cheese. All cheese is high in acid, and so this is really nice pairing, just like this white wine is. But alternatively to that, salads, vegetable dishes, that sort of thing. It's really good with goat's cheese, which I know isn't in our kit, but you know, if you're having something with goat's cheese, it's a really nice pairing.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things with cheese, just to talk about that for a second, it's quite salty, isn't it? You know, cheese naturally. So, like, this is a good wine for salt. Like,
whether you're having the cheese kit or the charcuterie kit, you know, that salty nature is going to actually reduce the impact of the acid on your tongue, increase the fruity flavours, and that's why something as simple as a bowl of salted popcorn or salted crisps with something like a Sauvignon Blanc is going to get rid of that high acid nature and bring through like the tropical fruits and all the stuff we love.
I mean, look, I can see why this is our bestseller. It's a fantastic Sauv, so cheers.
Cheers.
Here we have the Entero Macabeo from Mantrailer, and this is an old vine, organic, unfiltered.
Unfiltered, yeah. Unfiltered, but surprisingly clear. We were surprised when we first picked this up, because unfiltered wines, well, what does that mean? Well, once all the wine process is done and you've got the yeast is dead, it's eaten all the sugar and turned it into alcohol and done its job, we tend to filter it off because we don't want it knocking about in there, mostly for visual appearance. They've left this unfiltered. I can't really explain why, but even though it's unfiltered, it's super clear in the glass.
And that filtering can be where a wine becomes vegan or not vegan, because the agent they use to filter it can be derived from animals.
Derived from animals, absolutely. So this is unfiltered, but it is fantastically clear. It hasn't changed it at all. But in not filtering it, they've left the yeast in, and that's where we get the the richer, creamier flavours from the yeast, which you should get in this wine. So back to the grape though, Macabeo. Macabeo, or Voucher as it's known in the Rioja region, goes into lots of white Rioja, but Macabeo, probably one of the most famous white grapes in Spain, certainly to the Spanish, if not us. Most widely planted is a different one, Aren, but Macabeo is probably the Spanishes. Spain's most popular white grape. Goes into making Cava, their sparkling wine, and it's kind of on a similar plane to Chardonnay. Don't let that put you off. Chardonnay's great, but Macabeo is also. So it's versatile. It can grow all over Spain, in the hottest parts, in the coldest parts. Manchuela, south of Spain, southeast. So we're talking hot here. We're getting closer to the equator. But Manchuela is very high up on a plateau, and it has lots of altitude, and altitude cools those grapes down. And what altitude also creates is a technical word alert, diurnal change. Diurnal change.
Break it down. What is a diurnal change?
The diurnal change is super important for growing, particularly white wines, where you want the acidity to be nice and high and refreshing, but you still want the ripeness to develop fruity flavours. What it means is difference in temperature between night and day. So in the daytime, it's super, super hot, lots of sunshine, lots of ripeness for the grapes, so that they don't become overripe and too sugary. At night time, boom, the temperature drops down and it's super cold. Altitude is the only way to achieve this, being up a mountain essentially, and it's really, really important. It's what the Chileans do fantastically, developing these white wines that you're like, wow, this is really refreshing. That's the acidity from the nighttime, but it's also, there's flavour. There's loads of flavours coming through, and that's from the ripeness in the day.
Yeah, I mean, there is that kind of creamy butteriness to it, and you said this is from the yeast being left in. So in France, you would see that as lees aging, and in Spain, sobre lias is how you can see it on the bottle. But yeah, it kind of like, it's got like a buttery kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it's light in this. There's no doubt about it. Like, lees aging can be done in a heavier way. This is just a touch of it, but it adds a richness to the wine. But the grape naturally, Macabeo, very much like Chardonnay, naturally has weight to it. So we're not just talking about fresh, limey, lemony flavours, but there's tropical fruits and a richness to it, which makes it sort of, I guess, like one level above your average patio white wine.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you've said there, you know, it could be slightly better than, you know, a patio wine. It's got a bit more going on. Like, when are you reaching for this bottle?
Well, I still think it's a summer sipper. I think it's a great one. It is super refreshing. That diurnal change has kept the acidity high, and it is really nice and refreshing. But you know, if you were having, I don't know, like buffet food or barbecue where there's nibbles and stuff like that, and so there's lots of different flavours coming together, or if you were sort of having maybe cheese, but you wanted white wine as well as red as an option, this will do the job.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really like it, and I know that sometimes unfiltered can be, you know, very left field, but this is just a great wine.
Yeah,
really
it's great quality winemaking. Don't let unfiltered put you off. It's as crystal clear as you like. There's no risks here or anything like that, and there's a richness to it as a result.
Absolutely. Right.
Cheers.
Here we've got the Umbrelle Merlot from the Villa Timosuli region of Romania. Another Cremel Răcas wine here. Fantastic, lovely red. Talk to us about this one from Romania then.
Yeah, again, we're back with Cremel Răcas, founded by Englishman Philip Cox and his wife Elvira from Romania. They started in 1988, so all those years ago, but now are a massive international operation. This is by no means horse and cart winemaking, state of the art. They do their international varieties brilliantly, so we're talking your Merlot, your Pinot Noir, your Sauvignon, Chardonnay. They also have plantings of traditional Romanian varieties going back to the 1400s. Fantastic operation, we absolutely love them, and a great representation of what Romanian wine can be.
Yeah, you said there that, you know, they do a lot of those international varietals, so, you know, when we say that, we mean the big boys that we all know, Merlots, Pinot Noir, Sauvignon Blanc, etc. Why is Romania delivering those wines at such great quality and value? Like, what, you know, as opposed to the other countries?
So take Merlot, for example, you know, synonymous really with French winemaking. Romania has very, very similar climate to France, particularly central France, where a lot of the big winemaking happens, you know, Burgundy, Bordeaux, those types of regions, Côte de Rhône. They've got all the same climate, they've got the same soil, they're the same distance from the equator, they've got all of the stuff, they've got the technology, perhaps even more advanced technology. What they don't have, which actually is to their benefit, is the coast. So, particularly Bordeaux, for example, where Merlot is sort of born, and Merlot is super famous and can be super expensive. Bordeaux, right on the coast of France. You can have years where everything goes brilliantly in the fields, but then a storm blows in from the Atlantic, everything goes wrong, and as a result, the yields are down and the price is up, right? And that's just life for a winemaking country that is close to the sea, and that could be applied to New Zealand, it could apply to parts of Italy, wherever. Romania doesn't have that. All of its winemaking happens inland. I know there is a little bit of coast on Romania, but none of the winemaking happens there, right up the top. So it's completely inland, so it has all of the attributes that make winemaking easy, and none of the weather that can turn the tables. And that means that we've got consistent quality every single year that they can rely on and sort of stand by, and that means they can keep their prices super reasonable. This is, for me, a fantastic example of how great Merlot can be, because they know every single year what the climate's going to be, what the soil's going to be like, how the grapes are going to react to the environment, so they can price it brilliantly for great quality.
Yeah, I mean, I love an easy drinking red. You know, I like the big boys, but I do, you know, I love my Pinot Noirs. I do love my Merlots, ultimately because it's quite easy to, you know, take a couple of large glasses of it. Now, you've always had this little thing in your head about, you know, oh, medium Merlot. It's medium body, medium alcohol. It's a bit meh. I think there's quite a bit going on here. Like, this is a good Merlot.
There is. I am guilty of the medium Merlot stereotype. You know, so Pinot Noir, as you say, is very much the lightest end of red wine. You take something like a Shiraz or a Cabernet or a Malbec at the heavy end, and Merlot is in the middle of that. You know, you've got rich, ripe plum flavours. You've got a bit of tannin, that grippiness that we get in the mouth, but not too much. It's in the middle. And sometimes, yeah, I do feel that you know, particularly from France, if you want reasonable pricing, you know, if you don't want to go mad, it can be a bit sort of, you know, there's just not a lot there. But these guys, and I do think it's down to the fact that they're a state-of-the-art operation and they've got the weather on their side. They can deliver what maybe would be a £15 Merlot. You know, they can deliver it for $8.99 in the bottle. And so, yeah, the plumminess that is so synonymous with Merlot is richer. And the smoothness is smoother.
Yeah.
And everything about what they do, they've amped it up. They know what we want.
Yeah, they've knocked it up to 11.
Yeah, and they've turned up the dial.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, look, I love it. Could definitely drink a few of it. When am I reaching for this bottle of wine?
A lovely midweek wine, this. You know, if you're doing pasta, anything with a red pasta sauce, your spaghetti bolognese, you know, your pasta bakes, anything like that, tomatoes, flavours really going to go well with a Merlot. Yeah, you know, those are types of Italian flavours. Any midweek meal, really. Midweek Merlot. That's a thing. I've just made it.
Well, there you go. I mean, you know, medium Merlot fella over here needs his glass topped up, so I think we're on to a winner. Cheers.
Cheers.
Here we've got the Costa Vera Carmenere from the Central Valley in Chile. So this is another Indomitor wine, but this is the Costa Vera.
Absolutely, Indomitor, fantastic Chilean wine producer who basically stock all of our Chilean wines, super state-of-the-art, really eco-conscious. They've got this community program where they only employ from the local community, which sounds simple, but is actually just super rare in the wine industry. You know, the wine industry tends to import labour from abroad at cheap, and some of the practices aren't great. Indomitor, fantastic. Their winery looks amazing. Like, it's built into the mountain. It looks like something off of a Bond film. Fantastic. This is their Carmenere. Carmenere, strange old grape that we've not really heard of a huge amount. In order to sort of explain Carmenere, I've got to give you a history lesson.
Oh, here we go. Come on then. Come on. Hit us with it.
So when the Spanish went over to the New World in the sort of the early 1500s, the first thing they packed, you know, quicker than we would pack our underpants, was grape varieties. They brought vines over. They were swiftly followed by the French, and they quickly realized that the Chilean landscape was perfect for wine growing, the soil, climate, and that sort of thing. Now, when you're a Frenchman bringing grapes over to the New World, what you're going to do, you're going to, of course, go to Bordeaux, the capital of wine growing. And those varieties at the time were Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and a little unknown variety called Carmenere. But Carmenere was a pain in the ass. A pain in the ass to grow. It was finicky. It didn't like changes in weather. It was really difficult, and it was falling out of fashion. So generally, what they did is they brought over the three favourites, Merlot, Cabernet, and Cabernet Franc. And in fact, even Cabernet Franc wasn't super popular, so it was very much Merlot and Cabernet, two grapes that we sort of associate with Chile now. Fast forward a few hundred years, we're talking 19th century, 20th century, and Chilean Merlot is booming. It's absolutely booming, and the Cabernet for sure, absolutely booming. The Chilean wine industry is growing at a rate of knots. The French have done their work. Chilean wine is fantastic, and particularly Chilean Merlot was given its own sort of title as Chilean Super Merlot because it was fruitier, it was spicier, it was more interesting than a standard French Merlot. Fast forward again to the 21st century, DNA testing comes in, we start testing our grape varieties for their history, and we find out Chilean Super Merlot, not Merlot at all, Carmenere. By that time, Carmenere had become extinct in France. We had phylloxera in the 1800s, a little mite that came over from America, destroyed European grapevines and wiped off a lot of grape varieties. The Carmenere was non-existent in France, but had flourished in Chile and made the Super Merlot.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot going on to it. That's what I mean. I think that's why the Super Merlot came into it. It's got that kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like I say, we're not one for pushing tasting notes on people, but there is like a bit of a green pepper, kind of bell pepper kind of vibe in it. Yeah, great wine.
So yeah, it's got all the fruit. It's got that plummy nature. It's got red fruit. It's got dark fruit, just like Merlot has, but almost in like a sort of a dialed up thing. But the thing that separates Carmenere from Merlot is that green nature, green bell pepper, a spiciness, a sort of. I think it's the flavour of fajitas. That's the flavour that I get from Carmenere. The flavour of fajitas. You know, that sort of peppery spiciness that comes through when you chop up all those peppers and stick them in your fajita mix.
Yeah, I mean, put it in a NutriBullet, whacking a glass of Merlot in it, probably not the right thing in your head. But yeah, I get what you're feeling. That's got that vibe to it. So you're saying fajita, so Mexican. That kind of vibe.
Carmenere. I mean, I love Carmenere. I actually think it's super easy drinking. That there's not too much tannin. You know, there's not too much grip on the gums. It's like Merlot in that fact that it is easy drinking. But for me, it's my go-to when I'm planning a bit of spice of the evening. So, you know, whether it be spag bowl, but I'm going to throw a bit more chili in than you perhaps would. Yeah. Whether it be fajitas, you know, anything like that, where you're adding a little bit of extra chili or pepper to your dinners. That's where I'm putting Carmenere.
I mean, and if you're thinking barbecue, kind of anything, like I say, anything with a bit of spicing on there, paprika, that kind of thing, solid red for that occasion.
Absolutely, solid red. It's still an all-rounder as well. Let's not forget this is in the middle ground territory. We're not talking Shiraz or Cabernet or Malbec. It's not super heavy-bodied. It's in the middle territory. You pull this out at a party and, you know, pour it round and everyone's having a sip going, this is really great. They're going to be surprised to hear that it's Carmenere and not something middle of the road like a Merlot or a Tempranillo. It's a great all-rounder in that sense, from a fantastic winery when it comes to sustainability and practice, and great value for money.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, could be one of my new favourites. Cheers.
Cheers.
Marin Ganacha, and this is from Cariñena in Spain.
Absolutely, yeah. So Cariñena, which sounds pretty similar to the grape name Carignan. And Carignan, yeah, super famous French grape, but it's originally called Cariñena and comes from Cariñena in Spain. Goes into lots of popular Spanish red wines, but we're talking about Ganacha here, grown in that region. Ganacha is a super popular red grape in Spain. It's a grape that most of you will have drank in Rioja. If you go to Rioja, it's always a blend of at least Tempranillo and Ganacha. It's generally more Tempranillo and Ganacha, but there'll be plenty of Ganacha in there. Ganacha as a grape is generally always blended. We've talked about Ganacha in the past as a blended grape in Provence Rosé. It's what gives the colour to Rosé and a lot of the flavour to Rosé. But generally Ganacha turns up in various areas. Côte de Rhône, for example, as Grenache, as blends. And it's actually had a pretty bad reputation up till recently as a single varietal. The thing about Ganacha, it loves the sun. Oh, it loves the sun.
Sun worshipper.
Sun comes out, it's like this. Not the mirror.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I love a bit of sun. But what happens as a result, if not controlled, is it becomes what we call in the wine world, flabby. It becomes flabby. And we've all seen them, haven't we? We've all seen them lying out there in the sun. Basically, no, what flabby means is that there's no structure to it, there's no bite, there's no refreshingness, it's just pure sugary fruit, which is nice if you want, you know, kids to drink it, which I don't recommend, by the way.
No, definitely not.
But if we want to have a nice rounded red wine, we want a bit of bite and we want a tannin. So it received a bad reputation for that. But do you know what? There are a small amount of Spanish wine growers that actually champion Ganacha on its own and control that heat exposure, control the way the wine's grown to actually make Ganacha that, sure, delivers tons of rich fruit flavour, but still the structure and the bites and everything else we want from a red
there's
wine.
a big push at the minute in a lot of, you know, very popular big brand red wines to, you know, to throw jam or jammy or whatever onto the label, because people want that kind of slightly sweeter, fruitier hit. And some of those big brands, it is achieved literally by adding powdered sugars to it. But Spanish hot climate Ganacha can deliver that just naturally, yeah?
100%, yeah. So if you do like a jammy red, you know, perhaps particularly famous red that maybe a Snoop Dogg might endorse, or one with a kangaroo on the side, if you like that sort of flavour, that is richness of sugar, and there's no problem with that. Like we're you know, if you like it slightly sweeter, that's totally cool. But generally that will be powdered sugar. Not great for your health. It's certainly not great for your head the next morning. Ganacha, what that will deliver for you, much like a Primitivo from southern Italy, is that naturally. It sucks up the sun, converts that into jammy sugar flavours for you. And it does that completely naturally. We're talking proper rugged landscape here, with these are bush vines growing in rocks on the side of mountains, not in flat fields, where the rocks only amplify the heat. We're talking small amounts of yield as well, which means that you get less grapes, you get less wine, but you get more concentration of flavour. And for me, this is the way to drink jammy red wines.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, so we're looking at a jammy red here, naturally jammy, not additively. 13.5, so it's not a small player in the field of alcohol. When am I reaching for this bottle?
So for me, this is a great barbecue wine, for sure, as we sort of move into the nicer weather. You know, if you've got sort of richer, spicier flavours on the barbecue, maybe a barbecue sauce or an Asian spice, that's going to go fantastically with that. But equally, you know, those jammy reds, they're good for just a midweek glass. You know, if you got home from work, you want something that's not going to rip your face off before dinner, but you know, you want a glass of red to ease the stress of the day.
Ease the weekend with a nice jammy red.
Then this is the sort of thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm probably going to ditch the criminal-related reds, switch to something naturally jammy, because I think it's just a nice, easy drinking.
For sure.
Yeah.
We've also got oak aging here.
Okay.
So this is 3 to 6 months in French and American oak. So what do we mean by that? Well, American oak, it gives you those vanilla and spicy flavours that you sort of associate maybe with a Rioja. French oak, you've got more of those sort of like coconutty, subtle flavours. Bring the two together and you get a really nice overall flavour profile.
I mean, this is nice. I could certainly drink the bottle, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching our drink along videos. We hope you enjoyed the wine. Don't forget to come back and spend your £10 voucher on your favourite.